Shocking that Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen are in such a severe recession. Increasingly severe. China's economy faces major challenges. Xi Jinping's dream is shattered. It's hard to save it with huge investment. This is the Fourth Ring Road in Beijing at 7 o'clock in the evening. In my memory, I have never seen such smooth traffic flow on the North Fourth Ring Road during rush hour. Anyway, except for SARS and the epidemic, I have never seen it since I came to Beijing. Such a big depression is rare. If you tell me the real situation in Shanghai now, you might not believe it. Many big companies are cutting salaries and laying off employees. Many small companies are struggling to survive on the verge of losses and bankruptcy, and many can no longer pay wages. In the past, the mall was packed with people on weekends, and now it's deserted, as if it's about to close. I tell you the current real situation in Shenzhen, which may seem unbelievable. Large companies are constantly laying off employees, small companies are closing down, and the houses are unrented. What is surprising is that Shenzhen's finances are also facing problems. There are two major signals. First, many places in Shenzhen have reduced district-level expenditures this year. Second, Shanghai's foreign trade has stalled. In the first 4 months of this year, Shanghai lost its position as the #1 foreign trade city after 9 consecutive years. When two super cities send out strange signals, it means that we don't have much room for redundancy. China's economy is in a slump, and the Beijing authorities have finally lost their composure. The Political Bureau of the CPC Central Committee held an emergency meeting and stopped promoting the bright prospects of China's economy, rarely admitting that there are problems in the economy. Rich people are fleeing in a low-key manner, and there is a trend of going abroad in Beijing, Shanghai, and Guangzhou. The life of ordinary people is becoming increasingly difficult, increasingly severe. China's economy faces major challenges. Ming Zhuzheng, professor emeritus of the Department of Political Science at National Taiwan University, recently said on the YouTube program, Political and Economic Frontline, that in addition to domestic economic problems, China is also facing increasing pressure from the international environment. Among them, the Sino-US trade war has had a huge impact on China's export-oriented economy. Since the outbreak of the trade war in 2018, the United States has imposed tariffs on many types of Chinese products, greatly compressing the market share of Chinese companies overseas. This has not only led to a decline in China's exports, but also prompted some manufacturing companies to transfer production to lower-cost countries such as Vietnam and India, further weakening China's global supply chain position. At the same time, the technological competition between China and the United States has also brought huge challenges to the Chinese economy. The United States has blocked China's access to high-tech products such as advanced semiconductors and communication technologies through a series of restrictive measures. This technological blockade has greatly restricted China's technological progress in areas such as 5G, artificial intelligence, and chip manufacturing, causing related companies to suffer unprecedented pressure and development bottlenecks. Not only the United States, but European countries are also becoming increasingly cautious about China. Although economic ties between the EU and China occupy an important position in the process of globalization, in recent years, Europe has raised more questions about China's policies on market access and technology protection. Chinese companies have entered the global market with a low-price competition strategy, which has brought a great impact on European small and medium-sized enterprises, prompting the EU to increase its scrutiny of Chinese imports and gradually adopt more restrictive measures. In addition, the withdrawal of foreign capital is also a major test facing the Chinese economy. In recent years, more and more multinational companies have chosen to transfer production lines from China to other regions, which has not only weakened China's traditional advantages as the world factory, but also caused China to lose a lot of foreign exchange income and employment opportunities. In particular, A series of laws and regulations involving national security issued by China, such as the counterespionage law and the data security law, have further triggered a crisis of confidence in the Chinese market environment for foreign-funded enterprises. Although these measures are aimed at strengthening national security protection, they have also caused more doubts from the outside world about the openness of the Chinese economy. Xi Jinping's dream is shattered. It's hard to save it with huge investment. U.S. media revealed that China is working hard to cope with the U.S. chip ban, trying to achieve semiconductor self-sufficiency, and spending $96.3 billion to support the industry. But key semiconductor equipment issues cannot be solved by just investing money. China faces great difficulties in breaking through the technological ceiling. CNBC reported that since the United States implemented a strict export ban in October 2022, the Dutch government has also banned semiconductor equipment giant ASML from exporting advanced equipment to China. In order to cope with the restrictions, China has spent a lot of money to support the semiconductor industry and tried to break through the chip ban imposed by the United States and its allies. Since semiconductor equipment is key to China's promotion of the localization of the chip industry, CNBC estimates that the scale of China's 3 major national funds to support the semiconductor industry is as high as $96.3 billion. Last week, China announced that its latest exposure machine can support 65 nanometer resolution, referring to a process node of about 65 nanometers, which is an improvement over the 90 nanometers developed in 2022, but it is still far behind ASML's advanced exposure machine. Leping Huang, managing director of Huatai Securities, said that going from the current 65 nanometers to ASML's latest deep ultraviolet exposure machine requires major technological breakthroughs. In addition, ASML is still selling unregulated products to China. In the second quarter of this year, ASML's sales revenue to Chinese customers almost doubled from 17% in the fourth quarter of 2022 to 49%. John Lee of East West Futures, a consulting firm based in Singapore, bluntly stated that this growth shows that the Chinese industry believes they have no viable local alternatives yet. Paul Triolo, partner and senior vice president for China at the US-based DGA Group, pointed out that it would be a daunting task for any Chinese company to recreate the advanced exposure machine equipment that ASML has spent decades developing and commercializing. He bluntly stated that no matter what equipment Chinese companies produce, it is unlikely to fully replicate ASML's achievements, and the technical level cannot be matched. Camille Boulinois, deputy director of the US-based Rhodium Group, also said that in the field of electric vehicles, China's subsidies have stimulated demand and created a large and protected market for domestic companies to expand rapidly. But in the complex chip industry, breaking through the technological ceiling is much more difficult. Foreign media believe that key semiconductor equipment issues cannot be solved by investing money, and it is difficult for China to break through the technological ceiling. China's local economy is collapsing. Fuyang City in Hangzhou has collapsed and been taken over.
China's local economy is collapsing. The finances of Hangzhou's Fuyang City have collapsed and been taken over. Recently, it was reported that the finances of Fuyang City, Hangzhou, Zhejiang Province, collapsed, and it is now under the trusteeship of Hangzhou. China's economy continues to decline. Yunnan Province also announced that all civil servants' salaries in the province will be suspended. The ex-account Daniel Fang posted a message today, 26, stating that Hangzhou's economy is terrible. Daniel Fang shared an article from a Chinese netizen mentioning that 5 years ago, the rent for the EFC office at the Chuangjing Road subway entrance in Hangzhou was 2.8 yuan per square meter per day, while today, the rent at the Oak Center in the same location is 1.2 yuan. This office is part of Hangzhou's second iconic CBD in Future Science and Technology City, close to Alibaba. As for other offices, especially in large parks, many are being offered rent-free because landlords can save on business fees by renting them out. Many new companies lack offices, and numerous companies have either closed down or reduced their office space. The netizen noted that half of his office floor has been vacant for 6 months. His office is located in Hangzhou, 100 meters from Yongfu subway station and 350 meters from Alishiqi Park. The fact that such a prime location has remained vacant for half a year shows how bad the economy is. The netizen claimed that to cut costs, he considered laying off employees. Ultimately, on Monday, he laid off 15 staff from the live broadcasting department, 6 from marketing, and retained only 1 employee for design and customer service. He lamented that the current economic situation is dire. Daniel Fang also mentioned that various regions of China have begun laying off investment promotion offices. He speculated that this could be because there is no money to support these offices or no one is being attracted to them. He believes this is a sign that China's era of economic prosperity is gone forever. Additionally, a fiscal expenditure and income chart from Grongwei shows that from January to July, most regions in China are facing fiscal gaps, further highlighting the worsening economic situation. Shanghai distributes 500 million yuan in coupons. Netizens say China's economy is beyond saving. With the National Day holiday approaching, the Shanghai municipal government announced it will issue consumer vouchers worth 500 million RMB, about 71.22 million USD, starting Saturday, September 28, to stimulate the service industry. However, Shanghai citizens do not seem to appreciate it, as the vouchers come with restrictions such as full amount discount and first come, first served. Many netizens believe the government is not being sincere. Scholars argue that Shanghai's consumer vouchers are akin to discount vouchers. They are not universally issued and have set consumption thresholds, so their benefits may be limited. China's economy is weak, and people are generally downgrading their consumption, even in first-tier cities. On Wednesday, September 25th, the Shanghai municipal government announced it will invest 500 million RMB in municipal funds to issue Happy Shanghai consumer vouchers to 4 major service sectors, 3.6 trillion RMB for the catering industry, 90 million RMB for the accommodation industry, 30 million RMB for the film industry, and 20 million RMB for sports activities. The first batch of vouchers will be available starting this Saturday. However, there are thresholds for using the vouchers, such as 50 yuan off for dining purchases of 300 yuan or more, and 300 yuan off for accommodation purchases of 1,200 yuan or more, resembling department store anniversary discounts. According to official media, Liberation Daily, on September 26th, these vouchers will be issued in 2 phases on a first-come, first-served basis through 4 different payment and ticketing platforms. The Taobaoization of consumption vouchers has sparked public outcry in Shanghai. Shanghai citizens are not optimistic about this measure. Ms. Yang, a Shanghai resident who wished to remain anonymous, criticized the Shanghai municipal government in an interview with Voice of America, stating, "Taobao has been used too much and has begun to reflect reality. It is too funny. There is no sincerity at all, and it is impossible to promote consumption." She also expressed concern that the Shanghai municipal government might use taxpayers' money to frivolously subsidize businesses in disguise. Chinese social media platform Weibo also reflected doubts. Shanghai netizen Happy Miracle 09 criticized the government for saying, "If you're reluctant to issue it, then don't. You want to stimulate people's consumption but are unwilling to release it." Another Shanghai netizen, Kids Mom Dad, complained that cash is more useful than consumption coupons, writing, "Give out money. Brother, you always want to get the biggest return with the least expenditure. You're being foolish." A third Shanghai netizen, Wando Duodo, questioned the goodwill of the Shanghai municipal government, asking, "Why are they always secretive about issuing them, announcing subsidies without telling you where to get them?" Even people from other provinces and cities criticized the Shanghai municipal government's so-called people-friendly policies. A Weibo user named Hey Curry Guy San from Guangdong wrote, "The local government, Shanghai, did it on its own. They wanted to stimulate consumption but didn't have much money, fearing they would offend other regions and the central government. A Shanghai resident noted, "The Chinese economy is declining daily, and these consumer stimulus packages from the government can only slow the collapse of the domestic economy. They cannot save it. This is because people are facing a wave of unemployment and bankruptcy and no longer have a source of income." People want to improve their spending power rather than increase consumption. Wu Zheqi, director of the Taiwan think tank Center for Chinese Studies in Taipei, stated that Shanghai's issuance of discount-type consumer coupons aims to boost the economy in specific areas through targeted consumption, but the benefits may be extremely limited. The vouchers adopt a first-come, first-served model rather than a universal issuance, locking in those with spending power to achieve immediate digital performance, which aligns with the short-term operational inertia of the CCP's rule. However, setting a consumption threshold may lead to low public acceptance. Furthermore, he said Shanghai's consumption is anchored in the life and entertainment industry. The intended model is people consume first, stores offer discounts, and then vouchers are used to receive government subsidies. However, unscrupulous stores might increase prices before offering discounts to maintain higher profits. If such situations arise, consumers will be disadvantaged and won't enjoy any real benefits. Whether stores that offer discounts will ultimately receive government subsidies is also uncertain. Wu Zheqi told VOA, "Chinese people do not want to increase consumption now. They want to improve their consumption capacity. This is a completely different concept. This consumption voucher policy may be like a stone thrown into water, having no effect. China's current structural problems are very serious, and consumption cannot be resolved merely by consumption." Wu Zheqi remarked that Shanghai, as a leading international city with many leading industries, relying on consumption vouchers to stimulate the economy, indicates that its status as China's economic leader has been shaken, suggesting that the economies of other Chinese cities may be worse.
China's industry is crumbling. Bankruptcy everywhere. People cry about hard life. After China's National Day, physical stores are closing down again. China's A-share Chi-Next index sees the largest drop in history. China's economy continues to decline, and all walks of life are in a deep depression. Physical stores are closing down one after another. Amid the wave of unemployment, more and more homeless people are appearing on the streets. A female blogger in Xiamen, Fujian. This is Wanda Golden Street in Huli, Xiamen. The video I shot at the beginning of the year showed that 50 stores had closed down, and now there are 40 stores. This should be the peak season for physical stores, but there are still so many stores closing down on one street. Mr. Li, a citizen of Xiamen, told NTD that the current economic situation is not good, people are not consuming, and physical stores are closing down one after another. Mr. Li, a citizen of Xiamen, the most prosperous Zhongshan Road and Jinshan Road were basically full of empty stores. This store can change 3 owners in a year. After taking over, there was no business for 2 or 3 months, and then they changed owners because they couldn't continue to operate. Mr. Li said that there was no business even during the National Day Golden Week. Mr. Li, a citizen of Xiamen, "This is the quietest National Day since I came here more than 20 years ago. I work in the tourism-related industry. In previous years, our business was booming, but this year there is no business. People around me, including those in my living area who used to love traveling, don't travel anymore." Mr. Li revealed that many taxis in Xiamen have also stopped operating, and everyone has bought motorcycles to save costs. Mr. Wang, a shop owner in Dongguan, Guangdong. "Now no one has basic consumption. We are operating without profit and struggling every day. It's so sad and anxious. I haven't bought any clothes in the past 2 years. Even the vegetable market doesn't have many people buying vegetables now." The video shows that on the deserted streets of a city, a street vendor had a mental breakdown, stamping his feet and wailing. Mr. Wang, a shop owner in Dongguan, Guangdong. Prices are rising now, including green vegetables, onions, and pork. When you open your eyes every day, you have to think about your rent and where your water and electricity bills are coming from. If you can't hold on, you can only endure it slowly. Going back to your hometown is a dead end. There isn't enough money to grow crops. There are many homeless people on the roadside now. Mr. Zhao, a resident of Shenyang. There are often many young people sleeping on the streets in train stations and squares in many big cities. Many people are so desperate that they have no desire to live. The video shows that in first-tier cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen, a large number of young people are stranded in bridge tunnels, parks, and stations. After China's National Day, physical stores are closing down again. First, let's focus on the news from China. China's National Day Golden Week, which used to be a booming business period, is unprecedentedly quiet this year, and all sectors are in a terrible state. After the National Day long holiday, the performance of physical stores has dropped sharply. Many stores can no longer hold on and are facing another wave of closures. Mr. Li, a citizen of Xiamen, revealed that Xiamen is no longer prosperous due to the large-scale withdrawal of foreign capital. And no one wants to buy houses, even if housing prices are halved. He has worked in Xiamen for more than 20 years and has contacts with fellow villagers from all walks of life. The National Day Golden Week, which used to be a booming business period, is unprecedentedly quiet this year. For example, no one goes to the barber shop anymore, and it is much cheaper to get a haircut on the roadside. Mr. Li, a citizen of Xiamen, many physical stores have closed down, and some have closed one after another along entire streets. The rent for the stores is very high, and we can't afford to keep them open. Plus, there is no business. In the past few years, our fellow villagers gathered several times a month to eat and drink. But now we don't get together even once in half a year. The impact of catering and online stores has little to do with it. The main reason is that everyone has no money, so they reduce consumption. Wages have also fallen, but prices have risen again. Mr. Wang, the owner of a convenience store in Dongguan, said that China's economic downturn and people having no money to spend have led to the closure of a large number of stores. Some stores have changed owners several times a year and still cannot remain open. Going back to their hometowns to farm does not make money, and there are more and more homeless people on the streets. Mr. Wang, the owner of a convenience store in Dongguan, sometimes I don't have enough capital to keep the store open, and I can't even make enough money for living expenses. Business is bad, and I feel very depressed and anxious. There are many people who can't pay rent, and stores are closing down. My rent is hundreds of yuan a day, and I want to sell the store, but I can't. I still have children who need to go to school, and tuition is tens of thousands of yuan a year. I haven't bought a piece of clothing in 2 years. Pharmacies and small clinics that used to be popular have also seen a wave of closures. A Guangzhou doctor who goes by the pseudonym Wang Jian said that he went to work in a small clinic after retiring. After the epidemic prevention was relaxed at the end of 2022, there were too many patients to handle. This year, however, it is very quiet, and the clinic's rent is 12,000 yuan a month, which isn't enough to cover the cost. Guangzhou Dr. Wang Jian, pseudonym. China's economy is very bad now. There is no business. Many small stalls have closed, many clinics have closed, and there are no patients. The boss is losing a lot of money, and I haven't been paid in a year. The vaccine was paid, but those people are greedy for hundreds of billions, and the people are very angry. A Sanya education and training operator using the pseudonym Liu Yong revealed that it is difficult to do business in China, mainly due to the serious corruption of officials. Liu Yong, pseudonym, a Sanya education and training operator. Nowadays, no business can be done at all. The biggest problem in China is that private property is not protected. The boss is a lamb to be slaughtered at any time. If you do business honestly, one person will blackmail you today, and another will blackmail you tomorrow. If they say they will cut off your power and water, they will. You simply cannot run a business in a long-term and stable manner. China's A-share. Chi-Next Index sees the largest drop in history. China's 3 major A-share indexes fell across the board on Wednesday, October 9th. Among them, the Chi-Next Index dropped by more than 10%, marking a record for the largest single-day decline in history. As of the close on Wednesday, the Shanghai Stock Exchange Index fell by 6.62%. The Shenzhen Component Index dropped by 8.15%, and the Chi-Next Index broke the previous record of an 8.91% single-day decline during the stock market crash in 2015. Setting a new record with a drop of 10.59%. According to media statistics, only 294 stocks across the Shanghai, Shenzhen, and Beijing stock exchanges rose, while 5,039 stocks fell, of which 3,162 stocks dropped by more than 9%. In the latest wave of intense leak cutting by the CCP, a large number of young people in mainland China have become the targets of this harvesting. Most of them were born in the 1990s and 2000s and have never experienced the horrors of previous stock market crashes, let alone the CCP's tactics. Many rushed into the stock market with their parents' retirement money, their own marriage savings, and even money intended for starting businesses. Now, who knows how many will lose everything, go bankrupt, or resort to jumping off buildings or into rivers. It's tragic. In fact, when facing a stock market that has not been prosperous for a long time and has seen several severe declines in the past, a sudden, crazy surge is a red flag. At such times, one must be cautious, as it preys on human greed. Many believe they'll pull out after making a small profit. But don't underestimate greed. It will push you to keep delaying your exit, tempting you to add more positions. It's fine, I'll withdraw if it rises again. But by doing so, you may find yourself waiting for the inevitable stock market crash, filled with regret. While the Chinese stock market was in mourning, other countries remained unaffected. The S&P 500 rose 0.1% in early trading that day, nearing the record high set the previous week. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose by 155 points, or 0.4%. The Nasdaq Composite Index fell slightly by 0.2%. Indexes in other parts of the world remained relatively stable, with Japan and Germany rising by 0.9% and 0.2%, respectively. In the oil market, prices fell further. International benchmark Brent crude oil briefly broke through $81 at the start of the week before falling 2.1% to $75.55. The U.S. benchmark crude oil price dropped 1.8% to $72.23 per barrel. In the bond market, the 10-year Treasury yield rose to 4.04% from 4.01% on Tuesday night. The 2-year Treasury yield rose slightly, from 3.96% to 3.98%. The changes in yields are closely tied to the Fed's interest rate cuts. The total retreat, nearly 60% of Taiwanese businessmen consider leaving China.
The total retreat. Nearly 60% of Taiwanese businessmen consider leaving China. In 2024, many companies from Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, the U.S., and Europe are accelerating the process of withdrawing production lines and assets from China. The departure of well-known companies and brands is creating a massive wave, which has been accelerating in the final months of the year. With the release of a series of heavyweight economic policies by the Chinese Communist Party, the A-share market rebounded strongly before the founding anniversary of the People's Republic of China on October 1st. However, the CCP's harsh intervention in the stock market has caused foreign businesses operating in China to feel insecure and at risk. American think tank experts pointed out that 57.4% of Taiwanese companies are considering leaving mainland China. In response, the Epoch Times interviewed 2 Taiwanese businessmen and a cross-strait economic and trade expert to analyze the mental journey of Taiwanese businessmen who had to choose to leave due to labor costs, supply chain disruptions, and changing policies after more than 30 years of reform and opening up in China. Many people have entered the market as the Chinese stock market has risen for several days under the stimulus of a series of measures taken by the Beijing authorities. However, Reuters pointed out that it is too early for foreign capital to return to China because few fund managers expect the Chinese economy to grow vigorously in the short term. But institutional investors, who manage more than $1.5 trillion in client funds, said that the measures taken by the Chinese Communist Party to attract more funds into the stock market and stimulate consumer spending have increased the attractiveness of Chinese companies, which are still undervalued. In September, the Center for Strategic and International Studies, CSIS, a U.S. think tank, published an expert study titled Diversification Rather Than Decoupling. Taiwan's Industry Responds to Geostrategic Risks. The results obtained after visiting 610 Taiwanese companies at the end of 2023 indicated that 57.4% of Taiwanese companies are or are considering leaving mainland China. If your competitors go, you have to go, Liao Jinjiang, a Taiwanese businessman who had run a business in mainland China for more than 20 years and withdrew from China in 2022, told the Epoch Times that in the 1980s, China suddenly opened up and was willing to let you set up factories. When your competitors go, you have to go. Because your competitors go to the mainland, their quotes are lower than yours, so you can't not go. You are completely forced to go. At that time, Taiwan was still in the era of killing Jew and pulling out Mao, the slogan of the anti-bandit and anti-insurgency movement. Zhu refers to Zhu Dai, and Mao refers to Mao Zedong. So how did they suddenly start running away one by one? Liao Jinjiang said that he felt as if there was a force behind him pushing him. Li Mengju, who was once the general manager of a technology company, also said, "The first batch went mainly for cost considerations, and the second batch went because if you don't go, you will lose your competitiveness." Li Mengju, from the electronics industry, said that almost all of Taiwan's previous generations of electronics manufacturers have withdrawn, mainly because U.S. President Trump launched a trade war in 2018. In recent years, due to Xi Jinping's strict suppression of freedom of speech, there was the so-called 709 human rights lawyers mass arrest incident, and local media in mainland China disclosed that Guangdong province arrested tens of thousands of people in 1 year. So Taiwanese businessmen heard some cases around them, including that some people in the Taiwanese business circle have been cut off, exploited. Li Mengju said, Taiwanese businessmen are basically very sensitive overseas. Once they hear that the news is wrong, they will slowly withdraw.